Hello everyone, welcome back to the Newsfloor. It's your gal, Valerie. We took a week off, but now we're back. Happy May. Today is not only the first episode of May, but also Cinco de Mayo, and also Happy Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month. So there's a lot of things to celebrate in this month of May. I hope everyone's doing well. I feel like we are now entering very solidly into spring turning into summer. The weather's warm here in Los Angeles, and I spent the weekend and part of the week watching all of these clips surfacing from Twitter of all of the craziness that is happening over in the UK. So I figured, why not start the show off with a clip of that, because I found it exciting, nerve-wracking a little bit. If anyone tuned into this, over in Liverpool this weekend, the UK apparently allowed its very first event with no social distancing, no mask wearing, so literally just a straightforward back to normal event. And it was the very first of its kind in the country over this past weekend. And the lineup was huge. It was very much like a house music forward event. Some names on the bill were J2G, who you see here, Sven Vath, Fatboy Slim, The Blessed Madonna, and Jaguar, and a bunch of other folks. And I think the promoter behind it was Youssef, who, put together this showcase as a circus party. And it was crazy. Apparently this party, play a clip of it now, I'll turn the music down so we can just enjoy the moment. Actually, wait, we should hear the J2G, because it's pretty crazy. It's like full on show again here. There's a lot of people in that warehouse. So apparently these parties are being thrown in cooperation with the UK government, and they're actually doing this as kind of a test run for these shows. So it's being thrown with the Events Research Program, the ERP, which, if you think about it, is pretty impressive that the government actually has an entire governmental branch dedicated to events research programs. That's awesome. So this is a first in a series of pilot tests that will analyze the health and safety of easing lockdown restrictions and reopening large-scale cultural events, which is awesome because I think that's really important. And it's great to see a country and a whole government taking it really seriously and seeing not only the importance of events actually coming back, but also making sure that they're safe, because I think that I've been thinking about it a lot here in the US with all of these festivals being announced for the coming fall and end of the year. It's exciting and it's great, and I hope that we get to attend a bunch of these festivals, but also at the same time, there's no saying how it's going to go. Hopefully everything goes swimmingly, but if one thing goes wrong, then it could kind of ruin things for everyone else. So fingers crossed, but I think the UK is doing it right. So this is going to be the first of a series of events, like I mentioned, and they're going to have a mixture of indoor and outdoor events that will take place as part of this test. Different variables will be put to the test, testing the risk of COVID transmissions that will be studied by scientists afterwards, which is really awesome to see. And the findings are actually going to inform whether they continue lockdown past the date of June 21st and how they adjust and navigate forward. So really interesting to see. I'm excited that the UK is taking it seriously. I hope the US would too. Hi Jake, 808's Jake, nice to see you. I think the US could do a lot of learning from something like this, but we'll see how it goes. I was just talking to Mike, producer Mike, in the backstage about the event that happened, I believe it was last weekend, called Ubby Dubby, which happened in Texas. And that was a full-on festival, and I had a friend who went who said she was really nervous about going. And then when she went there, they had people who were hired to kind of like be there and distribute masks to folks, and people were actually throwing things at them and saying mean things to them because I guess a lot of people in Texas don't believe in masks, which was really unfortunate. So anyways, just further reasons to be a little nervous, I guess, but hopefully things all go well. So, news. Let's talk about news for this week. Burning Man here in the US. On the other hand, while the UK is partying under government-sanctioned events, Burning Man has canceled their 2020 event, which is sad. Sad but not surprising, I will say. So there were some whispers going around that the event was going to potentially come back. I had heard that some people were thinking that they might do camp tickets only, which means that they would reduce the capacity. But as it turns out, the event organizers have officially decided that 2021 will not happen, and they are going to set their sights on Black Rock City in 2022. They came out with a little video talking about it on their website, but basically the gist of it was, that I actually really liked what they said, kind of explaining about their decision. They firstly said that, of course, the timeline is much shorter now to plan for 2021 because an event the size of Burning Man, typically they're planning literally the day the event ends, they're already planning for the next year. They obviously weren't able to do that this year because things back even in January, February were still very unsure. So not only the time, but also this little bit that they wrote in their post about canceling was that humanity is experiencing collective trauma that is unprecedented in recent times. And for a while, some returning to Black Rock City felt like that was the answer, but there is a very real rebuilding and healing that needs to be done before returning full force to the desert. Physical, psychiatric, and emotional impacts of this pandemic are real, and the recovery from this experience will happen at different rates. So I actually really appreciate that because I think that that's totally true. I think that not only do we all have to be aware of our health, I think thankfully vaccines are going out, but it's going to take a little bit longer for people to be congregating in large-scale events in that way. But also it's going to be really weird, I think, for a lot of people to mentally be back in those kind of social situations. Obviously, a lot of people have experienced a lot of hardship this year, whether it's health hardships, family deaths, friends, all that kind of stuff, but also, a lot of job loss, a lot of just hard life changes. So, yeah, Mike, I agree. 2022, we'll be there. Hello, Genius Power. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to the Newsfloor if you're new here. So it'll be interesting to see. For now, no Burning Man 2021. But what I did find was interesting as well was that they did actually on their Instagram kind of allude to the fact that while Burning Man is not happening, they recognize that a lot of people will still go to Black Rock City, even though the actual official event is not happening. And for those who don't know, it's actually, you can do that. The land itself is BLM land, which I'm forgetting the exact acronym of what it sounds like, or stands for, but it is open land, basically. And you can go there, camp there, do all the things, and they just ask, the Burning Man official organizers ask that if you do plan on doing that, especially during the week of Burning Man, that you follow their rules of leaving no trace and, really respecting the land. So they apparently have a guide on their website of, if you plan to do that, how to do it, which I thought was really cute. So if you are still planning on being a hardcore burner and going there no matter what, just be sure to do it smart and do it well. So that is cute. For those who don't know, Mike and I did a fake Burning Man once, so you can check that out on our Instagrams. Otherwise, in news this week, let's move on to the next piece, which I thought was really fun. I like to set it off with if there's bad news, follow up with some good news, because Space Ibiza apparently plans to reopen the club sometime this year. For those who don't know, Space is an iconic Ibiza club that actually closed back in 2016 after a 27-year run. So the club has been around for many, many years. And the founder of the club, his name is Pepe Rosello. He is pictured right here with iconic Carl Cox. He closed down the club, and it was honestly probably one of the clubs on the island that had the best legacy, not only for the musical talent, but just the venue, the special feeling that you got when you went into the club. He took over the venue back in 1989, and really grew it to become this iconic legacy for the dance music scene, and also Ibiza as an island and a destination really for dance music and underground house music. So after 27 years, he closed it down. And I think the intent behind closing it down was just kind of ending at the top. They had the run for so long, and he is an older gentleman, so he was kind of ready to take a quieter backseat, I guess, for the island and his legacy. But things change, I guess. 2020 was a big year of change for everyone. And apparently now, Pepe Rosello is thinking about reopening the club, and apparently not even thinking about it. Apparently the plans are in motion, and he plans to do it before 2022. And it is clear, he's been clear that it won't happen before 2020, the 2021 season, which is this summer, and Ibiza is planning on reopening the island for this season. But he does plan to have it reopened by 2022. Which will be interesting because when the club closed in 2016, the actual venue itself stayed in place. They didn't like demolish the building or anything. So that venue is now the super club named not Ushuaia. It's now the super club named High, which is the sister club of Ushuaia. Very different type of music that comes through that club. It's very much a little bit more of the commercial end, I would say, of dance music. But I have not heard any plans of High closing, so I anticipate what that means is that Space will actually find a new venue to reopen. Again, this is me just speculating. Very little details have come out about this so far, so it'll be interesting to see how Space will come back in 2022. And of course, for those wondering, for those who know Space Ibiza and the legacy, they know that Carl Cox has kind of gone hand in hand with Pepe throughout the opening of Space, throughout the building of the legacy. So many people were wondering, will Carl Cox return for his legendary residency at the club? And apparently the answer is yes, because Pepe Rosello, who is the owner, mentioned that all the projects I have done in my life, I have done with Carl Cox, some with success and others with less success. I always count on him. So nothing fully confirmed there, but it certainly does sound like, there are some really solid plans for the dynamic duo of Pepe Rosello and him and Carl Cox to remain together. So that'll be really interesting to see. The next piece of news, I am sad to say, is definitely a sad bit of news, but definitely something that shook the dance music scene quite a bit this week. Sad to say, Pierce Fulton, I would say not past emerging, he was definitely kind of had already made his mark on the scene. He has passed away at the young age of 28. The news came via a social media post that was posted to his social accounts that was written by his older brother Griff, which is totally heartbreaking. And Pierce Fulton was known for his uplifting and pop edge dance tunes, probably most notably for his breakout hit back in 2015 with his single called Kuaga, Lost Time in parentheses. And he's also released on labels like Anjuna Beats, Armada, and Monster Cat, so definitely kind of hitting all of the really esteemed labels that we all know and love in modern day dance music. He's also collaborated with big names like Martin Garrix, and also he was working on a duo project called Leaving Laurel with half of the other group named Botneck. And sadly, in the statement, which was posted on his Twitter, his brother confirmed that his death came after a long struggle with mental health issues. And he also outlined that, it's been a really tough year for a lot of people, encouraging people, if you feel like you're struggling, to hopefully reach out for help, to kind of keep an eye out for those who might be struggling. This is the statement that was posted on his Twitter. You can read the whole thing online if you would like to, if you haven't seen it already. And definitely really sad. And, they kind of opened up this email for anyone who wants to send condolences or share memories, photos, videos of their good times, memories of his music. They encourage you to reach out at piercefulton.com. I think this is a really awful thing. We reported the news about Io's death a couple months ago, and I think it goes without saying that it is definitely something to be aware of, that coming out of 2020, it's not an easy thing. I think everyone is feeling much more optimistic now, like I keep saying over and over again, because of all these amazing festival lineup announcements, and people are finally announcing their tours are coming back. But it's important. Check on your friends, check on people in the dance music scene. Yep, I see you, Blake, still hurting. I know I was, as I was putting the notes together to report on this news, I was looking that Kuaga was actually released on Proximity. So definitely a tough one. A lot of people were online kind of sharing their condolences, sharing their shock, I would say, mostly, firstly and foremost, but obviously sharing their condolences as well. So check on your people, be aware, especially as we're coming back into crazy party settings and people are going to be letting loose and going crazy, it is important to check on your friends and make sure that everyone is doing okay. You know, it's a marathon, not a sprint, as we like to say, you know. Anyways, that's the news for this week on the news floor. It has been a busy few weeks, and I sense that it's only going to get busier because as I was putting together the news notes for this week, I was like, should I talk about the Gov Ball Festival announcement? Should I talk about Holy Ships Festival announcement? There are so many festivals being announced. I couldn't cover them all, but I'm curious to know which one you guys are going to because I think I really like the Gov Ball lineup. I am forever a Rufus stan, so anywhere they go, I would love to go as well. Crazy to think also that EDC was supposed to be happening in like 2 weeks, basically, at the end of May, maybe 3 weeks. A little wild if you think about it that way. But anyways, let's move on to music. There's a lot of good tunes happening this week as well. Oh, good call, Blake. Proximity. I did not put on the Skrillex and Noisia, but I did see all the chatter that new Skrillex is coming. We all knew it was coming. I feel like honestly he's probably had new music done for like the past year, but I feel like he and his smart team behind him probably knew it was best to wait until things were opening up on the horizon. So I'm sure we're going to be seeing a lot of new stuff from Skrillex very soon. Okay, I'm going to turn off my background music because we're going to start listening to new tunes. The very first is a brand new tune that I'm excited to talk about because it is from a new artist that I've never heard of before until this week, named Bad Turner. The track is called Back to Me, and before I play the tune, we were lucky enough to get a cute little video from Bad Turner introducing a little bit about himself and talking a little bit about the track, so let's hear it.
What's up, Valerie? This is Bad Turner. I'm a Brooklyn-based electronic artist and a DJ. I'm super excited today to have released my brand new track, Back to Me, which features the vocals of Marie, a UK-based songwriter, and was released on LG 105. For the visuals of this track, although we don't live in the same place, we decided to collaborate remotely. So she sent me some footage, I projected it on my wall, and we did a video that way. I filmed myself kind of playing the keys and dancing along and edited it together in a few hours. So very excited to share it, and thank you for having me on.
Thank you, Bad Turner, for being such a good sport and sending a cute little vid. I like that he specifically thought about the entire environment of his video as well. But as he said, Bad Turner, Brooklyn-based artist, and this new track is called Back to Me. I'm going to hit play as we listen to it. Check it out. Let me know if those volume levels are okay. Oh, look at that! I see we have our special guest for later in the chat, Miss Somi. I'm really excited to talk to her. If you tuned into the episode 2 weeks ago, featured the new track that she just put out with Book of Shade, and I was so obsessed with it that I was like, I need her to come on the show and talk to me a little bit about it and also what's coming up. But anyways, back to Bad Turner. Let's focus on one artist and one awesome tune at a time. Bad Turner, Brooklyn-based artist. This track, as he mentioned, is a collaboration with the vocalist Marble. That's spelled Marble with no E. And the lyrics speak towards the various stages of a relationship, taking us through the narration of the various thoughts and actions taken by a partner in search of fulfillment. Very deep. Very deep. Let's give this video a bit of a bigger shine. I really like videos like this too, where you can tell like that it was not an expensive setup by any means, right? It's just him playing along in front of a projection screen. But there's something really artsy and thoughtful about the way that it was shot. Also, the track very much has a mood to it, so I very much appreciate that as well. Thanks for every moment you're at home back to me. Make your way back to me. Make your way back to me. So this track is out now, so if you're feeling it like I am, you can go check it out on all of the places that you listen to music. Oh wait, look at this dance move. I can do that too. So good. Alright, so keep track of this because I always like to ask, right? What is our favorite track of the ones that we listen to? God, I'm a big fan of his, like, dance moves. It's a good one. All right, let's move on to the next track, which is also a really fun one. And honestly, I kind of want this whole video to play because it's really amazing. This next one is from an artist that if you are a Lost Resort subscriber or follower, you might be familiar because Muzi has definitely made an appearance before on this platform, on this channel. But he has a new song out called Intergalactic, which is also the best name ever, if I do say so myself. And the video is crazy. Not only is the track amazing, but the video is crazy. So I'm going to make my head smaller because we really should just check out this video more so than my head. Let me know if the volume levels are okay on this one. But if you're not familiar, Muzi is a South African producer. And this video was shot in Johannesburg's scenic, rustic, and red white industrial mines, which is why it looks like it's literally in outer space. His outfit is fire. Undeniably fire. Let me know if you agree, because honestly, you should agree. And the description of this video and this song was that, you know, Muzi is very much demonstrating his love of Johannesburg, very much showing off the beautiful environment that he lives in, and while also having that kind of like futuristic spacey tone, not only with his outfit, but I don't know, the landscape just looks like it's Mars or something. It is amazing. Hello, by Strong PR. Welcome to the Newsfloor. Good time to join in. We are listening to new tunes this week. We've now landed on Muzi's Intergalactic, which honestly is the best name because it very much captures like it's a spacey vibe, but it's also, you know, his pride in being South African, being from Johannesburg. Yes, Mike agreed. Bunch of dope artists from South Africa. I feel like all it takes is like one artist, like an artist like Black Coffee, or an artist like Peggy Goo coming from Korea to like open the door and really say like there are so many talented producers here, and then thankfully they all come flooding out. So I'm glad we have received Muzi.
Told you I'm a boss, you ignored that.
He's new to me this year for sure. Look at that. Look at that setting. It looks like he's dancing in Mars.
Picture perfect, I enjoy the view.
I love this one. So this is a preview from Muzi's upcoming album. Muzi actually has an alter ego named the Zulu Skywalker, which again, very much hitting that sweet spot between spacey and proud to be South African. So really excited about this one. Look at that. I just realized that I could full screen it. Live producing with Valerie 101. Such a sick name. I know, I agree. The Zulu Skywalker. I honestly think like Muzi looks like the coolest dude ever. Look at this shot. Look at that. You can't tell me that that's not Mars. That's on Earth. That's Johannesburg. Crazy. It's a beautiful video. He's a great musician. Thank you for that, Mike. We love a good pun here at the Newsfloor, so thank you for that. That was Intergalactic, so don't forget if that's your favorite tune, do tell me about it. And I just want to share before we move on this amazing Instagram post that he posted, I think, from the shoot. I want to go here. Those are the lyrics to the song. But yeah, I'd like to go here. This looks like Mars. And I feel like this trip is much shorter to South Africa than it would be to Mars. So let me know. Are you guys feeling Muzi's track or Bat Turner's track? They're honestly both really good. But I think maybe Muzi has Bad Turner beat by just a tiny bit just because the video is really awesome. But all right, let's move on to the next tune, which is not by me, so don't listen to that. Okay, this is a brand new one from a name that we all know. Diplo's new song featuring Elderbrook and him called One by One. I actually haven't even listened to the song in full yet, so this is a live reaction that you're going to be getting. But as we all know, Diplo has definitely switched his tone up a bit over the past few years. You know, previously was more of the Major Lazer sound, but now he has gone deep into the deep house vibes. Yep, Diplo and him and Elderbrook, very much two names that I love, very much in like the melodic deep house universe. So let's see what it sounds like when you toss a little Diplo in there too, right? This is the first single off of Diplo's upcoming album on Higher Ground, his label, his like house tip label. And what I thought was funny was that apparently, while we know that the album is coming and this is already the first single from it, he was on Twitter the other day sharing a clip of this song before it came out, and he was like, I don't have a name for the album, so send me some thoughts about what we should name the album. So apparently it's very much still in the works. We don't know what the album is going to be called or when the final release date is, but we're definitely getting a taste of what it sounds like. Sounds like, honestly, when I listen to this, I can sense that Diplo has been spending a lot of time in Tulum. Spending a lot of time in, yeah, I'll stick with Tulum. I'll stick with Tulum. Decide if I like this one, but I do think it's really interesting because it actually does sound like a very, like, you can very much hear that it is an Elderbrook and him track, but also like this part feels very Diplo-y to me. Like that kind of almost sounded like Major Lazer, like those like high tones that they use in those interludes. So it does actually very much sound like a collaboration between them three. And so this is actually also the second time Diplo has worked with Elderbrook. They worked on a track called Never Gonna Forget, which was on Black Coffee's recent album. So, very much the same universe. You know what's funny about this music video? It's actually, like, I keep expecting them to show who's driving in the car. I don't know if anyone else has the same like experience, like when you're a younger kid, when you're listening to like your favorite like emotional song in your headphones and you're sitting in your car and then you just like imagine yourself in a music video, like staring out of the car window, like very dramatically. And you're always like, this would make for a really great music video. I don't know if anyone else has that shared experience, but I always did that when I was like a young teen in the car. It's like dramatically staring out of the car. Okay, Somi's done it too. Makes me feel better. I don't know why we've always had that. Yeah, I still do it too. That's really funny. Okay. I'll be the first to kick off our discussion about which one was my favorite. I'm going to say this was my least favorite, by far. I'm going to say that it was a nice tune. I definitely enjoy this song. I wouldn't hate on it if a DJ played it, but it didn't move me. It didn't excite me, really. So I'm curious to see what other tunes come from him. I think that Muzi was my favorite track because not only was it a great song, but it had an incredible video. And Bad Turner was a very close second. I really appreciated both of those. So you guys let me know in the chat. Tell me which track you guys are feeling the most. And I, in the meantime, am going to queue up a track that we have already heard, but hints a little to our upcoming special guest who should be tuning in very soon. And the reason why I invited her to be part of the show, because this track is amazing. It is called Small Talk by Somi and Book of Shade. Put it on full screen because now I can do that. Now I know how to do that. Yeah, I heard this track because I was pulling new tunes for the other week, and I've known about Somi for quite a bit. She is an awesome Los Angeles-based talent, so here in LA, you know, I mean, the scene is large in LA in many ways, but also like the local talents. There's a couple of folks who just grind really hard, work real hard on, you know, just like opening up all the clubs and playing their tunes, getting their feet wet. And Somi was definitely one of the folks that I noticed a couple of years ago, and have just really loved watching her kind of blossom as a producer. Not only a producer, a DJ as well, but also this vocal that you're hearing. That's her. That's right, Mike. Singer. Taking an interlude to listen to the tune. Hi, Lauren. Good to see you. Thanks for coming back.
Are we okay? Okay. Are we okay? Okay. Are we okay?
Take a little interlude and listen to the song. Oh, hey, Sahil. Sabana Music. My guy. All right. Looks like I have Steph in our little backstage area. Just got to get her to turn her camera on and get ready to say hi to everyone here. Are we ready to welcome our very special guest? Because I am, even though I could listen to the rest of this tune as well, but you know, we'll take a pause on it for now. But I'm gonna pull up our gal. Hey girl, how are you?
Hi, good, how are you? Okay, of course,
I'm
got
so
all
good.
tangled in my, I'm like, hey.
You're like, hello there.
Ah.
Well, it's okay, because we'll save you by pointing out your amazing symmetrical background, which we were noticing and admiring earlier when you did a sound check, right?
Which I had also only discovered during the video / sound check, because I've never
You know-
sat right in the middle of the setup like this.
Good for you, because I was going to say, it takes a lot of thought to be one of those people to like put together a whole background. I know that here I'm always like trying to hide like this part of my stream, like trying to pull the angle, but it's like a funny situation in my house. But you have a great setup, which I love. But I'm so glad that you could make it. Like I've said already to the stream, I was such like an organic fan of just like I follow you and like know about your music and saw that you had this new release, and like I love Book of Shade, so I was like, ooh, this is gonna be great. Listened to it and I was like, dang, this is truly a banger. Like I want to hear your I want to sing along to your vocals on a dance floor hopefully soon.
Yes.
So I'm so glad that you could be here, and I guess I just want to start by asking, you know, like how has this past year been for you? I know we're all kind of emerging out of our cocoons, and it obviously seems like you've been very productive. So I'd love to learn more about like just what you've been up to over the past year.
Yeah, you know, I was just talking to someone, I think it was yesterday, about this exact thing, just sort of like reflecting back on this past year, you know, and first of all, I can't believe it's like been a year since it's been over a year now.
Over a year now.
Yeah, since that
Sadly,
fateful
admittedly.
day.
Yeah.
Never forget, like Friday, March 13th, when
Right.
lockdown was announced here in LA. It was like, I mean, just thinking back, like I basically went numb after that day for like 2 months. Like I just blacked out, you know, like as I'm sure a lot of people did. And so that's how the first 2 months of lockdown went. And I, you know, somehow I managed to like sort of snap myself out of that and say, okay, well, you know, life has to go on somehow. And what am I going to do with this time? What can I do? I can't, you know, there's obviously things that we can't do anymore outside or socially. So that means, all right, I got to focus internally on things that I can do like inside as well, physically.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think I really just found a lot of comfort in music and in making music. And, you know, at first it was really hard because like I'm someone who feels very inspired by nightclubs and yeah, specifically like, you know, 500, 600 cap sort of rooms, intimate sort of clubs. Those are like, every time I leave a night from one of those places, I feel like I can, write a new piece of music. But without that, I felt like I had sort of lost my like source of inspiration. Like,
Yeah.
So at first it was kind of like slow to get in front of my Ableton and feel inspired enough to write something. But eventually I just kind of poured my frustrations like into music, and that became its own sort of sound and its own sort of like emotional thing. And yeah, I mean, all the music that's come out so far this year was written last year during the pandemic, and so I think there's like a hint of wistfulness and sadness and everything that's come out, and that's reflective of 2020 energy.
Yeah, definitely.
like the Book of Shade track, that came about end of last year, where there was still a sense of like anxiety and sort of uncertainty of like, well, when are things going to come back? It's been almost a year now, and no one's said otherwise.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, I'm really glad to hear that, because I feel like, I mean, as an outsider looking in, I think there was a lot of empathy and sympathy for artists that were maybe about to have like this really big year of like, maybe it was like the first big lineup of festivals all summer long sort of thing. And just recognizing that like a year can be really like make or break for an artist who's like emerging, which is always kind of a funny term, but yeah, like definitely having about that moment. And I definitely feel like I know you were starting to play some like really big festivals and definitely getting booked across like big shows. So I'm glad to hear that it was not easy, but you were able to kind of turn it around and really make, I think, some of the best music that you've put out so far out of that time. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah, and I was saying, kind of introducing you, that I first learned about you being one of those like hardworking local LA talents, like open like residency at Sound, like playing all the right shows, but you're not actually from here, right? So am I correct in that you're from Korea?
Yeah, more or less. I mean, I'm South Korean, and I also just that's the city where I spent, like the single city where I spent the most time.
Yeah.
I sort of moved around a lot of different places, but Seoul is where I was from like age 8 till I graduated from high school there. So I mean, my parents still live there. So when I go, back to visit family, back is Seoul. So yeah, I very much identify with being from Korea.
That's amazing. So talk to me a little bit about, not only Seoul and like growing up there, but how and when music came into the picture in your childhood. And I know that, in Korea, I don't know if it's the same because I'm Chinese, but it's always that stereotype of like Asian parents want you to be a certain career, or like have a certain life. So like, I'm sure while they do encourage us to like always pick up an instrument and like learn about music, it's never really like the do that as your career thing. So I'd love to learn about like how did that affect you?
Exactly. I mean, you nailed it all. I think that we must have had similar experiences growing up. It must be like a shared Asian thing across all types of Asian. But yeah, so, I grew up in Korea, and like, I think I wrote about this recently on an Instagram post, but growing up, like most of the music I listened to initially was like classical music and like musical theater soundtracks.
Cute. Love
those,
that.
Yeah, those were like the two things that I really just was passionate about from a young age. So I'd say like music was in the picture from a super, super young age. Like I started studying classical piano at 3.
Wow.
And yeah, I to this day, I'm not sure if that was my decision or like my mom's, because I was so young that I'm like, well, you could tell me anything, and I'd be like, oh, I guess,
yeah,
I guess,
okay, I'm into this.
Right? She claims that like I was the one begging for lessons, and I'm like, I don't know.
You're like, sure, Mom.
Yeah, begging for classical piano lessons. I feel like I wanted to like do ballet or something,
I probably just like play in the dirt as most do.
I think I wanted to just watch like cartoons all day. I think,
yeah.
So begging to play classical piano, okay, Mom. But she claims. So yeah, music was in the picture early on, but it was not at all the kind of music that I'm sort of immersed in now. It was just like very wholesome. Not that dance music isn't wholesome, but Disney soundtracks, different Disney soundtracks, musical theater soundtracks, classical music. And it was that all the way up until I was, I want to say like 9 or 10. And I was living in Seoul by then. And yeah, my dad came home with some CDs for me. He was like, I guess he figured, all right, it's time for you to graduate a little, or you're old enough to maybe handle some edgier stuff. And so he was
Maybe
like,
he was just tired of listening to the same Disney songs
I think
over and over again.
I think he was like, I'm gonna lose it if I have to listen to like Aladdin one more time. Oh my gosh. So yeah, he was like, here's this Boyz II Men CD. And I just was like,
Good choice.
This? Good choice, amazing choice. But you know, when you're young, you judge the CDs by like the artwork. Like, well, I mean, I guess we still do that, but you know, when you're really young, you're just like, I don't know how to make sense of this. I don't know who these people are. I don't know who these boys are. Like, where's where's the Little Mermaid?
Right, exactly.
And, but you know, I listened to it and I was like, this is so cool. I don't even understand what this is or what I'm listening to, but just, you know, I was like, this is amazing. And then he gave me Mariah Carey and a bunch of other things.
He's really into the soulful tunes.
Totally. It's like he loves Stevie Wonder, and he had a bunch of Michael Jackson CDs, and just I mean, he also loves Elton John, so it sort of had eclectic taste, but like for whatever reason he was like, you're getting the R&B. And that was it. That was, from then on, I was like, I realized sort of how big this world of music was, that it was much bigger than just, you know, piano and theater. And so that was it for me. I was like, I need music to be like a critical part of my life forever.
Amazing. So when did it switch over from you becoming you know, doe-eyed music fan to actually being like, I would like to create my own music? How did that part start?
You know, I think that from basically that age, I knew I wanted to be a performer of some sort. But it wasn't until I want to say like three or 4 years ago, when I got into electronic music, that I was like, I think I would like to make my own.
Yeah.
You know, I was always just sort of set on this idea that I would perform it, especially because, you know, coming from a theater sort of background, you know, you're typically performing other people's works, like you're a character or a part of a cast, and performing a script that's already been written by someone else. I had never really considered being the creator of the source material, you know. But yeah, once I discovered underground dance music, there was something about it that I was like, I have to create my own version of this. I don't know what it was. It was different from being like, I want to compose my own classical music piece, or I want to direct or write my own play. You know, I had never had the same sort of inclination, but with dance music, I was like, I want to make my own tracks for sure. That was like 3 or 4 years ago.
I find that so interesting too, because I think that I totally hear exactly what you're saying, and I feel like that's probably a very much a shared experience where people can be fans of all different kinds of music, but like the level of entry to dance music, for better or for worse, I think, and sometimes is a lot lower. So there's this feeling of like, I can try this out, and it's easy, not easy necessarily, but it's easy for you to at least like get your feet in, experiment, see if you like it, and just, you know, try it out. But that's crazy to think that was only 3 or 4 years ago for you.
I mean, I moved to LA at the beginning of 2016. So I guess that was 5 years ago already. And that was the first year that I listened to any true like underground electronic dance music.
Wow.
And
that's so wild. That just goes to show like you never really know like where the journey of life will take you, not to get really deep with it. But, that was actually a question that I was going to ask you, because from what I understand about like your history, you know, music wasn't necessarily the obvious choice for you. Like you had like almost like a previous life before you were like, music is the career that I'm going to pick. So talk to me a little bit about that, like mentally, what was it that changed that for you?
So, you know, being the good Asian daughter that I was growing up, I was like, okay, I'm going to do something that's going to, you know, make my parents happy and that is palatable to them. And that will, you know, put my degree to good use and all these sorts of things. And so I had this whole past life, I guess, working in tech as a product manager. And before that, like I initially got my feet wet in tech, actually through the engineering side. So I was like an entry-level junior software developer first.
She
But I
does it
think
all.
no, I quickly found out that I'm not a great developer. It never came naturally to me, and not that that means that you can't become really great at something, but
Yeah,
it just didn't excite me enough to put in that effort to close that gap,
that's
and
the
be like,
difference. Yeah.
yeah, right. I was like, this is cool, but I'm not like dreaming about it,
Hmm.
um, and so, but I got into it because there was something about it that seemed creative, and I still think that there is a lot of creativity to writing software and designing websites, designing apps. There's a ton of creativity,
Yeah.
there's a lot that goes into it, but it's not necessarily musical.
Yeah, definitely
And
not.
no, and I think that I found that my brain just couldn't let that go, that need to not only be creative, not only stretch my brain, but to specifically do it, like within the realm of music. Like
Yeah.
it's kind of like, all right, I gave this a shot. I thought that as long as I sort of scratched, like the itch of doing something that's intellectually challenging, and creative in its own way, that could be enough. And
Yeah.
I found that it wasn't. And so that's sort of kind of when I had to just be honest with myself and say, okay, well, could I picture myself going down this path for the next like 30 years, and would I be happy? And I was like, I don't know. I don't think so. And that didn't seem like a really good answer to me.
Yeah.
And so then I was like, all right, well, what would make me happy? And I was like, I think the only thing, honestly, at this point that would make me happy is giving music a real shot. And
Amazing.
I don't want to be 70 and regretting that I never tried it, And so I literally walked out on my job, on my career, everything. I just quit. And
Crazy.
and for a year I had no real plan. That the first year I quit and was just kind of deflecting my parents for an entire year. Like I told them
Yep.
initially that I was just taking some time off, so in their minds I was going back to work at some point,
Right. Right.
not like, oh, you're done. And so the first year was me like sort of half-heartedly like interviewing at other places, knowing I was never going to take the job even if I got it. It was weird. It was a weird, I was like, why am
Yeah.
I was doing this whole charade just so that I could tell my parents that, like, I was not quitting life to do music. Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. I mean, I feel like kudos to you because I can only imagine how scary a decision like that is. And I understand, like, you get to a certain age and you're like, if I don't try this thing that I've been thinking about forever, then
Yeah.
if it blows up in my face, then it blows up in my face. But I at least will be able to say that I tried it out. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
I've never feared regretting trying something. I've like, when have we been like, oh my God, I'm so mad at myself that I tried and it didn't go perfectly, right? Like,
Exactly.
but
Yeah.
my biggest fear has always been, I'm just gonna have so much self-loathing if I didn't try. And I just
Yep.
have to wonder, like, why didn't I, or what if, so.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, look at you now. It has worked out pretty well a couple years in. I can only imagine a couple years later what else is going to come from it. But so when you kind of made this decision, were you already in LA or did you specifically
Yeah.
come to LA for like the music side of it?
No, so I was actually relocated out here by the last tech company that I worked for. Like I came out here for a tech job.
Hmm.
And I lasted a year with them, and yeah, so no, I did not move out here for this, and
Wow.
it was all by accident. I really moved out here with the intention of like, I'm gonna help really build out the tech scene in Los Angeles. And
Mm.
I moved out here with like a lot of interest in cryptocurrencies actually. And so I was into all this, like, I know it's like a whole craze right now, but like
Yeah.
I was into this in like 2016, 2017. I bought my first Bitcoin in 2014. So
Look
like,
at you. There we go.
so like, and I think, I'm like, everything happens for a reason. And if nothing else, maybe my time in tech happened so that I could be exposed to those kinds of things early on.
Yeah.
Because, they have helped me out financially now for sure. And, are enabling me to do this artist thing, which
Yeah.
life is so weird.
Yeah,
But,
and not only that, but bring you out to LA, which I'm sure, that's kind of the second part of the question I was going to ask you is the difference of being in Seoul and LA, like, I mean, us being here in LA, we always talk about LA as like the hub of all things music and entertainment. But I feel like musically, it's a really interesting thing, right? Because I'm sure that the music scene in Seoul, from what I know about it, is amazing as well. And just how that has affected like your music creation and your process.
It's interesting. Like, because I left Seoul when I was like 17. So I was 17 when I left Seoul and came here for college. Like, I guess what I'm saying is I don't know if it was because I was like only 17 and I hadn't like dug into like, as a grown up, like the scenes.
Yeah.
Or if it was because they really didn't exist. But like, like especially back then, like there wasn't really no scene that I was aware of besides like rabid fans of K-pop. Like, before K-pop became globally sort of welcomed and beloved, like the only people who cared about it were Korean people and Japanese people, I feel. Like,
yeah, totally.
Really, like, and so that was the only scene that I was aware of was just like crazy like Korean schoolgirls who would camp out in front of their favorite pop stars' homes for like days and days. I was like, oh, that's the music scene here. Like, I don't know. I think now there's a really incredible, interesting underground electronic music scene like bubbling up. And I got to see a small piece of it when I went back to Korea 2 years ago before the pandemic. There really wasn't like a scene like that. And so I think that's a big part of why maybe music intimidated me for a while, because I didn't grow up feeling like there was a community that I could be a part of and like partake of it. It was always like a very like the celebrities are on TV in Korea and they're sort of like out of reach, and the rest of us are like crazy fans,
right?
And that's
there's
it.
No
like,
in between.
Yeah, there's no in between. So I always that it kind of, I guess, put this distance between the idea that I could be in it, right? It was either I'm watching it or I'm a 1 in a million like TV star, but like there was no in between.
That's a really interesting way to frame it, and I think about it because I wanted to ask you about this moment for dance music. Obviously, we have artists like Peggy Goo and Yeji, and there's so many of these like representative, specifically Korean women, which is amazing. And how you feel kind of just observing it and obviously being a part of it now with releasing your own music and being an artist amongst people who look like you. Like, how does that feel for you?
It's honestly insane, because like I feel like even as early or as late sort of relatively compared to some of my peers in the scene as I got into this music, 5 years ago, I don't think we had the Peggy Goos and the Yejus. I mean, they were obviously working on their crafts and they were around, but like they hadn't quite broken into the mainstream the way they have now. And so just the difference in the last like 3 years, 4 years is I mean, I don't even know if I would have the guts to be doing what I'm doing if they hadn't sort of blazed the trail first. So to me, like that's how big like their impact has been on me in terms of feeling like I can do this too. Like there's room for me, and the great thing is sort of how diverse all those girls are, right? Like looking at a Peggy and an artist like Yeji and Park Hye-jin, like, and Toki Monsta, of course, our original LA queen. Like course. They're all so different. Their music doesn't sound anything like each other. They don't look anything like each other. They don't dress the same, and I love that. Like it makes me feel like, okay, there isn't just one archetype of Korean woman that is accepted, sort of, which we don't necessarily see as much in K-pop, unfortunately. I feel like in that space, there is sort of like, you have to look a certain way. But that's its own thing. But thankfully in dance music, I don't feel like we so far have been held to that kind of standard, And so it's exciting. I feel so excited to be like, in any way, like contributing to the growing list of Korean women who are doing things in this space. Yeah,
I'm so glad you bring that up too, because that's another follow-up to the question, was if it ever presented itself as more of a challenge as well, because I think about it, and I'm obviously also so excited to see all of these really diverse and amazing different faces, sounds, but also filling in this archetype of like, what's an Asian woman doing in dance music sort of
Right.
thing.
Right.
And I just sometimes, I'm so glad to hear you say that's how you feel and inspires you, because it so easily could have gone the other way, right? It's like people are like,
so easily.
you have to be like, you have to make this kind of music, or you have to look
Totally.
this kind of way.
Totally.
But yeah, I mean, just goes to show exactly like you said, like how different they all are and the different paths they're going down, and you included. So
Yeah, I
I'm
mean,
really
just
happy to hear
just
that.
so thankful because yeah, you nailed it. It really so easily could have been like whoever the first one was to sort of break through. It could so easily have turned into like, okay, the expectation is that we all are like versions of her.
Exactly.
But like miraculously, that's not what's happened. So
I love that. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, now let's talk about the track that I'm obsessed with. I've told you this many times now. I want to talk about Small Talk. Tell me
Yeah.
about how it came together, how you got to work with Book of Shade and release this track together.
Sure. Well, like all great projects, half joking but half serious. It started out just as a DM through Instagram.
I knew you were going to say that. I was like, it was a DM.
Damn it, I'm not unique. Yeah, so it was right after my EP on Danny Howard's label had come out. So it was right after the Sparks EP. And I see this message in my inbox from them just like saying, "We love Sparks," and like thumbs up emoji. And I'm like, wait, what?
I feel like you do?
It's also, I'm just like, is Book of Shade DMing me? Like, what's happening right now? Like, this is what?
Yeah.
And I replied like, oh my gosh, thank you, honored, and I think I basically threw out there like, well, if you like Sparks, I would love to work on something with you guys someday if you're open to it.
Yeah.
And then immediately regretted it, like, oh my God, why did I say that? It's embarrassing. What if they say no? And
You got to shoot your shot, right?
right, like you have to, but it's always
Yeah.
scary each time because you're always scared of like the rejection. Like, what if they laugh?
course.
What if they laugh at me, or they're like, what? I roll. So, but neither of those things happened. They were like, you know what? Actually, yeah. Like, let's we're gonna think about this and just get back to you to see if there's any like tracks that we have that could work. And I was like, oh my God,
Cool.
I'm like freaking out, trying to play cool. I'm like, yeah, for sure. Send me tracks whenever, anytime.
Love it.
And yeah, they sent a couple tracks over. And the initial demo for Small Talk, it sounded a little different, but like that main sort of bouncy bass line that's in it, like of all the things they sent me, that was my favorite, because to me, like that bouncy bass line just was so signature Book of Shade. So I was like, that's the one that I'm gonna write something to. And so, yeah, I mean, this was like October, November of last year, and we just started sending versions back and forth to each other digitally. I had never met them in person, but we had a really good like email rapport, and they were, yeah, and they were super open to like suggestions, and like it just felt really collaborative. It didn't feel like, I just recorded my takes, sent them off, and didn't hear back from them, and like magically like the record came out one day. It was like all throughout the way they were like, what do you think of this? Or you think this is too much of this? And I'm like, you're asking me for my opinion?
I love that.
Yeah. So that's how that came about. It started with an Instagram DM, like all great projects, right?
That's amazing. And I'm always so curious about how collaborating digitally works, because I can imagine, we've all heard the stories of artists who, get that magical jive in the studio, and obviously that's easy to understand, but I think it's the same way. It's like you have to have the right feeling of like, is this working? Are we working together? Does it feel very much like that? But
yeah,
that's amazing.
It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting how that collaborative energy can be conveyed through just emails. It's weird. Like you wouldn't think that could translate, but it does somehow. So
let that be something we take away from this year of speaking over email and digitally and whatnot, that your email tone certainly does matter.
Oh my God, it matters. It matters. People can feel things through the screen and from your words,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
So, yeah.
Awesome. Well, so after this track came out, tell me, what do you have coming up next? Because I've heard from a little birdie that apparently you do have more coming up next, and hopefully soon, right?
Okay, well, I feel like some of the things I can't get too specific about
That's
yet.
fine.
That's
Any
fine. Yeah.
previews? Just tell us
Oh
about it.
man. Maybe I'll just send you like some special clips like on the side. Where is it in the
I would
backstage
like that.
area?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. We'll talk offline.
Yes, yes. But I'm trying to think here. So I have I will be making an appearance on someone's album, forthcoming album. I
Ooh,
think
very
it's their
exciting.
yeah, I think it's their first album. I can't say who or what label, but just be
Yep.
on the lookout. Sometime in the coming months, I will be a featured vocalist on someone's album.
How
Um,
exciting.
yeah, and right now I'm just busy writing new music. I sort of go like the way I write is just I go through these spurts of like being super locked in to where, just I can't think about anything else except music for like a month straight. And I
Yeah.
kind of just like release, everything out of me. And then after that, I feel very like spent. And it's
Hmm.
not that I don't feel like I have any creativity left, but like it's just after that, I feel like my mind switches into like, okay, I have all this stuff now. Now let's switch into like sort of promo mode and like, what can I do with the stuff I've made? And my brain just goes there, and
Sure.
which is helpful because I guess it's the cycle of like creating and then promoting and putting out what you've created. But like right now, I'm in that like writing music stage. So
Great.
I'm working on hopefully some of my own EPs and stuff to come out later this year, and yeah, I mean, I'm working with on a possible collaboration with someone who I really, really look up to, who is one of my idols. And I'm
In the
really, really
DMs?
excited
Did
about.
it start in the DMs?
You know what? This one did not start in the DMs. It's like I was just thinking this is the only one I think that did not start in the DMs. We were introduced.
Hey,
Um,
no hate on the DMs. No hate at all in the DMs. It's a very productive place sometimes.
I feel like we're almost talking about like, did you meet on Tinder or like or IRL? Like, oh, was it the DMs or like were you introduced properly? Like,
I love it. There's no shame on either one when
no.
it's music making, right?
But yeah, currently working on that, and so we'll see where that project goes.
Awesome. Well, I'm excited. Even though we couldn't get the details, it sounds like you have a lot of really cool and exciting stuff coming up. So thank you so much for coming on and telling
you
me a
for
little bit
having
more about
me.
yourself. I'm actually really glad because I know that you and I have known each other for a while, but I feel like this is
Yeah.
actually the first time I've gotten to know more about you,
This
which
is
is
the
awesome.
longest conversation we've ever had so far.
I love it. And now it's live for the world to see.
Yeah.
I love it. No, I'm such a big fan of yours. So congrats on the track, and we'll talk offline.
Thank
I'm
you.
trying to
Yes,
get
we'll
those
talk
things in
offline.
my DMs.
In your DM, I'll slide into your DMs next.
I love it. All right. Well, take care. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you
Thank
soon.
you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, guys. Big shout out to Somi. If you guys don't follow her already, you certainly should. Obviously, she's active on Instagram because that's where the DM conversation comes from. Just kidding, but not really. But I'm going to drop her Instagram into the chat. Be sure to follow and check out all of that new music that will hopefully be coming out sooner rather than later. And yeah, I think we should just end the show with a little listen again of the tune because I'm truly honestly obsessed with it. Let's play it again. Yeah, who should we raid? What do you guys think? I don't know who's online right now. Let's see. Backstage Michael always has a good recommendation. Soul Clap? We love the Soul Clap guys. Let's go over. Let's do a little raidy raid. Thank you guys for tuning into the Newsfloor. It was so awesome to hang out, and I will be back soon with more news, tunes, and interviews. So, see you guys soon.
just to find the words, everything's okay. If I am so lost, just to find the words to say. Everything's okay. Are we okay? Okay. Are we okay? Okay. Are we okay?